This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Don't underestimate
the power of a single
conversation.
It could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
Hey everyone, we started a little bit late, but it is what it is. And that's one of the phrases that we're talking about today on our broadcast, because this is something that's been on my mind for a while. The idea of blanket statements or generalizations. I don't know if have you heard a blanket statement before, EJ? Or is generalizations more common for you?
I mean, generalization, I feel like I've heard that more, but yeah, blanket statements, I'm pretty familiar with that term as well. Like, I know, like, if you tell me blanket statements, I definitely know what it means.
Got it. Okay. Hopefully everyone there in the chat is also familiar with that, because that's what we're talking about today. We've got some phrases here that you probably all have heard, and we're going to try to evaluate them and see if they stand up, if there's something to be said about them. I already mentioned one of them, which is, it is what it is. I feel like I say this phrase just so unabashedly or just so casually. What is your thoughts on this phrase? First of all, let me ask, what does this phrase mean to you when you hear it, EJ? It is what it is. It is.
I don't know if I'm gonna sound mean, but like every time I hear someone say that, it just comes across to me as like you don't want to solve you feel too tired to solve your problem. Just say it is what it is. It's like how I take it, because I feel like, I mean, it is what it is, sort of like acceptance, right? It's sort of acceptance of like, well, this is the situation I'm in. Yeah, like probably not. Like it was like saying this is like the best that it can get. Like,
Yeah.
as of right now.
I feel like it's a kind of acceptance. I don't want to say it's like you've given up. I do think what you said earlier, Ring, is kind of true, where you're just kind of like weary. You're like, it is what it is. Like, you just like, you don't want to, you haven't surrendered, but you're just accepting it and just trying not to fight it anymore. So
it's like it's like when you're walking towards like the office. You just got out of your car. You're walking towards the office. Like maybe your bag gets caught in like something, and then it flicks your arm and you spill your coffee, and you're just like, it is what it is. Just
yeah.
like,
when it all starts like piling up, right? That's when you kind of. But is it true? Like, would you say that there's any merit in saying like it is what it is? Do you think it's a problematic phrase or generalization?
I mean, problematic. I wouldn't call it problematic. I mean, it is sort of like this statement of like, it depends how you use it. It depends how you use that sentence. Like, if you just keep saying it is what it is to like every inconvenience, I feel like you would kind of reach sort of like this mentality of like not even trying to solve anything, because you're just like, well, it's like this. But it definitely, I feel like it's not too bad when you're like you said earlier, like minor inconveniences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're just, maybe it's just not your day. Like I feel like, as so long as you don't kind of let that be your mindset, right?
Ooh,
it's sort of just something that you
point.
say like when things happen, right? You just say it when things happen, but you don't let it be your mindset of like not even trying to solve anything. So you're just like, oh well.
I feel like that's a good point that you added at the end there, like to not let it become a mindset, because it is what it is. Makes sense if it's like the day to day, like just like troublesome things. Like I had a friend who came and she had 2 different shoes on, and she's like, happens, right? But like to actually have that and adopt it as a mindset, because I feel like if you just take that phrase and apply it to every like serious thing in your life, then you won't solve the problems that you have. You're just
Yeah,
like,
like say you
that's
fail,
it.
you fail
That's
your
all I got.
quizzes. Yeah, you fail all your quizzes, and you just go, "Well, it is what it is." Like, no, study.
Yeah. Like I don't think that's not how that works. I want to mention what Renz put in the chat. He put there, where was it? He said it's accepting with grace and accepting defeat with grace and dignity. I feel like when you're fighting with the door or like with your curling iron or like just the daily stuff, like that's acceptable. But then once you get to the more serious stuff, like, dude, you need to study. Or like, dude,
Reconsider, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to reconsider. Like, is it really what it is, or is this something you have to take more seriously?
Yeah, it's situational. I feel like that one is situational. It is something that can be helpful to kind of relieve stress too. I think in the moment,
Mhm.
like it is what it is. Like I'm not. Maybe you might just not want to deal with it in that moment. So you're like, let's just set it aside. But like, don't forget about it. Like
Mhm.
don't forget about it later on. Yeah. So yeah. So our thoughts on the
Yeah.
phrase. It's like medium. I feel like not
Yeah,
too
it's like it's situational. Depends like how
situational.
you use it, or and not even just when you use it, but also how frequently you
Mhm.
use it.
Okay, next one. Money can't buy happiness. I feel like we've had conversations about this,
Yeah,
UJ. So
yeah,
your thoughts first before I get into
yeah. That's not true. That's not true. It depends. What is your happiness? What is your like? If your happiness is like a Lamborghini, then yeah, money can buy happiness. If your like, if your happiness is like your happiness is like a mansion, then yeah, money can buy that. You know, if your happiness is going on trips around the world, yeah, money can buy that. You know, but the thing is, I think thing to or the thing to keep in mind there is that it buys you. If I have to add anything to that phrase, is that, or if I had to edit this phrase, it would be money can buy you temporary happiness. Uh, like
interesting adage
I
there.
forget who said that, but he separated happiness from like joy. It's like
Hmm.
and the way he explained it is like joy is, or no, never mind. Like for him, it's like true happiness is like contentment, and like in like what you have. You know, like for him, that's like true happiness. Like if you're content, then you're happy. You know, but he said like those temporary happiness that money can buy. It's like that's like don't expect that to carry you through like the rough times. You know, it's
So
like
this is okay. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah, I
No.
want to
Go
hear
ahead.
what
You're finished. No, finish. Because I feel
yeah.
like my answer for this has changed over the years. Just by listening to stories of people. I feel like before I would say that it can't buy happiness, but what I will say is that it can buy a certain level of happiness,
Mm,
a certain level of comfort. Because I feel like with people, we tend to when we can get like really happy is typically when we feel like secure, like basic needs are met, right? That's I
mhm,
feel like that's a very big thing to even before you can even get to happiness, like having basic needs met, like shelter and food, clothing, all those things, water. If you don't have those things, a lot of the time you kind of deal with that internal struggle, or like worries kind of compound. So having that, right, and then being able to go the next level of the luxury of being able to pick the things that you want, like not just settling like, oh, I'll just get this because this is the cheaper option, like being able to purchase things. So I feel like it
mhm,
can buy a certain level of happiness, but like what you said, to the point of it not being super sustainable. Like there's a certain cap off where you're like, no, this is not something that's actually doing something for me permanently, or this is not something that's feeding me in a way that is like what you said, sustainable. Because
yeah.
I've
Like let's
also
say,
go ahead.
mm, yeah, like let's say your happiness is like a sports car, and you buy like you buy a sports car. You know, like for you that's happiness. You're happy about that. But if you're let's say you're having problems with like maybe a sibling, maybe like your significant other. like that car is not gonna solve that problem, right? the like that's what I meant by it like being temporary in a way that like it's don't expect it to kind of carry you through like all of like your problems, right? And I
But
think that's like kind
I
of
will
like
say
the
though, in like smaller moments, like food, I feel
yeah,
like when you
definitely
can buy like whatever
necessities.
food,
Yeah, I
it's
like
like
what you said about like like in the way that you explained how money can buy you happiness, that like being able to be comfortable, right? Like you have food, you have shelter, like you have your necessities, right? And then having maybe a little bit more to like buy the things that you want to buy, like that
mhm.
is happiness, like for me that would be
Not
contentment.
just for
And
ourselves too, right? For other people that we
mhm,
care about, like
yeah.
being able to see that. I think Ren's actually put a good question in the cat, like what kind of happiness does it buy? So, like
Mhm,
what you said, it's that temporary versus is this like a sustainable thing?
mhm.
So, are we on the fence of situational, or is this like are you flat out like I don't agree?
I mean, it's just I think it's like one of those things where it doesn't explain a whole lot. Like it's like definitely if you expand the saying more, you add more to it. I feel like yeah, you like I would agree with it. But as it is, I think there's like context missing from it as of
Mm,
like the way it is now. There's like context missing from it.
okay, that's fair. Next one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke,
Mhm.
don't fix it. How do you understand? Because I feel like this one is a little bit more literal. Like it's more
Yeah,
like
it's
metaphorical in a sense. So what's your understanding of if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
it's like if something works, if something already works the way that it is, like let's say, and that's not just with like the physical things, right? Like let's say your car's working and you don't know anything about cars, but you try to you you unscrew like a couple stuff like in the engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
like like and then you end up breaking it. Like that's kind of like the more literal sense, but it also in things like let's say a structure in a company, right? Like you have this sort of like this flow of like the process of like the work, right? And it works the way that it is. It's timely in the way that it is. Like trying to change that is just gonna mix up a lot of lines, and it's gonna cause like delays. It's gonna cause like issues,
Mm-hmm.
like that. I think that's the meaning of that. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like if it's working, then don't fix it. Like you don't need to change it if it's already like working.
But what are your thoughts on the phrase? So after understanding your understanding of it, what are your actual thoughts?
Natural thoughts like on the phrase. I think it's okay the way that it is right now. It's like it's a pretty self-explanatory like sentence. Although I would say there are situations where like even if it ain't broke, like you like maybe it still needs some fixing. Or fixing is not the right word. Improvement, right?
Hmm.
It still needs some improvement. But that's why you save a backup of like, okay, this is what we were doing before. You still save like in terms of like computers, you save a backup of like the file before you start working on it.
That's good. That's a good one. I like that. Just because that's a good reminder. Like, yeah, you can try to move forward with something, but try to have a backup too. Kind of plan B. I feel like my type A or people like they always like to have the different like backups and plans and stuff like that, which is good. It's always good to
That's
have.
why I always have two copies of like all my like paperwork or like my files. Because I'm like, okay, if I want to make a big change to it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is gonna break it. I'm gonna
Mhm.
I'm gonna save a backup in a different folder, and if it doesn't work, I'm like, okay, just override it with like this old. It's working.
You're thorough. You're very thorough, EJ. That's what I take from that. I do want to mention what PJ put in the chat. He put it's only a saying, not a rule. Not a
Mhm.
rule. So that's interesting to think about because why do you think some people try to I don't want to say force, but implement this kind of saying, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I
Like, why
think
go
it's
that
because
route?
of like these sayings. Like when I think sometimes people make these sayings into like their personal motto, and
Mm-hmm.
they mistake it for an identity.
Mm,
Like this is my identity.
interesting.
I am the money can't buy happiness person. I am the it is what it is person. Or I am the, if it ain't broke, don't fix it person. Like they make it. They kind of like it's even if maybe at the back of their head they're like, no, it's like they kind of argue with it, but they're like, well, I'm this person, right? I'm this kind of person where my motto is that my motto is that money can't buy happiness. So this is what I think. Like their decisions, their thoughts might be different from like what they decide to do, but because in their minds, like I'm this type of person, it like
That makes
sort of
sense.
like influences like the decision that they
Yeah, I noticed that with a lot of different things, not just with these phrases specifically, but adopting like something as your whole as your whole
personality.
thing. Like it doesn't give like room for flexibility. It's very like black and white or just like this or that, right? And there's certain things that are appropriate to be black and white, right? Especially when it comes
Hmm.
to like our morals and what's important to us. But in situational stuff like this, especially, I hear this phrase. You kind of you touched on it already. Is like in the workplace where a lot of systems that are kind of built already, and you want to be able to have that balance of keeping systems running and then also making room for innovation as well. I think it was Renz
Hmm.
that put in the chat like progress. You always want to think about progress, and you can't really explore that idea of progress if you're just it sounds like settling a bit when you say if it
Hmm.
ain't broke, don't fix it. Like that's
Yeah.
great that it's working, but is there any way that I think it was PJ that said there's always ways that you can kind of improve upon something?
Hmm.
So thoughts on the phrase? Is it neutral? Is it how do we feel about it?
If it didn't broke the fix it. Again, I think it's as it is. I think it works because it doesn't need for context. Uh, like in my opinion, it doesn't need like further context than that. It's like pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, situational. Situational.
Situational.
Like what like how would you define broke and how would you define fix
Mm,
it?
that's good. I feel like I don't use this phrase too much, so it's more of like I'm more on like the like side. But that I like that point that you put there. It depends on how you're using both words. How do you
Mhm.
define broken? How do you define fix? Because you could be fixing a thing and you just made it like a lot, a lot of words,
Like you don't fix an
like
engine with a hammer,
unintentionally.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next phrase. If you're not changing, you're falling behind. Thoughts on this phrase? I haven't heard this one too much, but this was one that did come up when planning this topic. So thoughts?
I mean, okay, there's like two things that I'm like kind of thinking of in terms of like changing. It's like first off, how often are you changing? Like every day, it's like a different personality. So like the
Oh
change,
no.
or it's like, and the thing is, it's pretty redundant because you are changing like every day. It's just um well, it depends. Like, what are you changing? Are you changing for the better, or are you kind of reverting back to like habits, right? Like, what is the change that is like kind of happening? Like maybe today and like for the past week, I've been like keeping up with my exercises. I've been keeping up with my diet, and then the next day I binge eat. I kind of just sit around on the couch the entire day, not doing my exercises. Like that would be an example of me changing, but it's not that like I am changing, but I'm also falling behind. So it kind of goes
Yes.
against like that saying now. But there's also a change where it's like me decide, okay, this is like what I wanna like this is what I notice in myself, this is what I want to improve on, and then I make that change, then I'm not falling behind. So it's again, it's like one of those things where it's like yes and no. Like yes and no on this one.
I like what Ren's put. Ren's and PJ are putting very thoughtful things in the chat. Ren said, "Wait, is it worth changing?" So,
Mm.
is it worth changing? And then from PJ, he said, "Change is not easy for everyone, especially if it's comfortable." So, I think one thing that can kind of fall into this phrase, if you're not changing, you're falling behind. The questions that I would kind of address with it is like, well, can you measure the change? Like, and who's observing the change? Is it you that's observing the change, or someone outside who's telling you like, oh, you're not changing? That's why like you're
Mhm.
falling behind. Like someone could outwardly see you, and you going about doing these different things, but they don't know the actual changes, like little things that you're trying to do
Mhm.
to improve that thing. Like let's say you really suck at tying your tie, EJ. This isn't true. I'm just using this as an example. You always show up to work, with your tie like just really crooked and like uneven, and they don't see you trying to practice every day, but they just think that
Mhm.
they just dismiss you as this guy who doesn't know how to, and he's never changing. Like he's just
Like
staying the
he
same
doesn't
all
know
the
how to tie his tie. You know?
Yeah, but they don't see your progress, right? I feel like
Mm.
that's the thing that kind of comes with this phrase is like if you're not changing, you're falling behind. But it's like who's doing the assessing here?
Mm.
I feel like.
I would say in the inverse of that, though, it can also be true where you might think that you're not changing, but you are changing, like everything. And sometimes people notice that better than you. Like I don't know, like growing up, like having people who like don't see us often. Every time I see them, they're like, "Oh, you're growing a bit taller now," like, and they say stuff like that, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I'm the same height as I've ever been. And then one day I just
An
look in the
illusion.
mirror. Yeah, yeah. Because you don't notice that. You don't notice the change.
Yeah.
Then one day you just kind of, one day you just hit your head on like the door frame and you're like, oh, I guess I am getting taller. You know?
Is that real life experience that happened to you, EJ?
Okay, that's. I mean, it's sort of like happened because I did get like and it's weird because I had my growth spurt at like sixth grade. Like
Oh,
I
that's
got like
early.
really tall. Yeah, it was early. I got like really tall in like sixth grade, and we had this sort of like we had a gate in the school, and that gate like it has like a door on the side, and like the bottom of that door is like it's kind of elevated, so you kind of have to step
Oh
over it.
no.
And my habit when I was in fourth, since I was going through to the school since I was fourth grade, the habit that I built up is I jump I jumped like over that like the gap thing, and I just remember one time. It's like first day in school. I jumped and hit like my forehead on like the top of like the door frame of
Ouch.
like the gate. I was like, wait, why did I hit my head on that? Like I never hit my head on that. Like why now?
That's how you know.
And yeah, like this is the thing. Like I didn't notice the change that I was going into. Like I was growing into. It's like it's just one day you just realize that like the sleeves of your shirt is like
Yeah.
shorter, or like your shoes don't fit anymore, right? Like or you're trying to close your shirt and you can't close the top button because like you're like when did I gain like weight? And
That
I'm,
is
I'm saying this about myself.
But that's so relatable though, because you really don't. I feel like you really don't see that. I feel like the changes that you want to make maybe about you personally, with it could be like career or decisions that you want to make for yourself. Like you will see those changes, but all the other changes, like just over time, because sometimes you'll meet up with friends and then I won't say that you don't recognize the person anymore, but you can tell the aura about them is different, like the way that they carry themselves, not necessarily in a bad way. You're just like, oh, this is a different side of you that I didn't like even realize existed before. Like, wow, that's nice.
Like
So I
meeting
think
my
we're always
childhood friends, seeing how mature they are now, it's like it's weird, but we're all adults now, and we're all like we're all super mature now. I mean, we're still kind of childish, but like when we're with each other, but it's like seeing that they realize that we're all like sort of like we've matured, right?
yeah.
Not just physically, but also like the way, like like before before we would have thought that shaking hands was like cringy, but now it's like it's
Really?
like oh yeah, like hey, what's up? Like you kind of just shake hands. You gotta just because when we were kids, we kind of associated that as like kind of like that's an adult's thing, like shaking hands.
Oh, like being professional, like
Yeah,
to
being
me.
professional. Yeah, like that's an adult's thing. But
Normal.
now we are adults. We do kind of have that. That's how we say hello to each other now. Like, hey, what's up? Like shake hands.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
like there's those like changes. So yeah, and I think the thing about this like the changes that like you are changing. So maybe don't kind of like uh don't focus on that feeling of like I'm falling behind. That's what
This
is
one
falling
is
behind.
true. Agree. You kind of have to ask yourself that. Like it's a perspective thing. I think PJ
Yeah.
put there in the chat. This next one is related to the previous phrase. So we just talked about if you're not changing, you're falling behind. This next generalization or blanket statement. If they can do it, so can you.
No. No.
No. Just- situational. For me, I think it's
Mm.
situational, but I want to hear your thoughts, PJ.
You know,
And,
like the
and
people
the vice
who, you know, the people who train lions in circuses.
Mhm.
It's like for me, okay, if I lock eyes with like a lion, like all the bravery that I have gone. So to expect me to be in a cage with a lion, like having like that with like that, no. If they can do it, so can I? No, not really, not really. Uh, like here's another one. If they can do it, so can I. I'm like my height. I wouldn't say I'm short, but I'm not that tall either. I'm like 5'9" maybe. I'm around 5'9". But if I'm like let's say playing basketball with like 7 foot like basketball players, I am not gonna like I am not gonna be able to make even one point there. You know? Like I'll probably be at like maybe at the best their shoulder or at the worst maybe kind of at their stomach or something. Like that's my height. You know? You know. So I think there's I mean it's motivational. You know, like I think
Mm,
the purpose of that is the purpose of telling someone that is to encourage them to try. But
right.
like realistically, you also have to think about physical limitations.
True. Depends on what we're
Yeah.
talking about. I think that's why, well, Ren's flat out said no. He's like, nope. He was like you. And then PJ said it's situational. So I feel like I'm in the camp of situational because for me, and sometimes this works against me in a fault kind of way. Like this is my mind is like it's not always a good thing to kind of see potential, right? Like to see the potential, like I can totally see you being able to do this. But more like what you said, using that, I think, in the sense of motivation as opposed to comparison. Because how I
Mhm.
commonly hear this phrase, if they could do it, so can you, is like comparison with like some kind of adult or someone that you look up to, and then they're comparing you to somebody else. If so also can do it, so can you. I'm like, I don't know if I, like you're not really in that mindset yet to kind of get there. It's not as
Mhm.
motivational to receive it that way. I feel like the best way that I try to do it is trying to let them know that you have the potential to do it. If you really wanted to do it, you might not be able to reach this other person's level because there's always going to be people who are better than us in a lot of different aspects of whatever it may be. But
Mhm.
there's always potential, I feel like, for us to do XYZ, whatever it may be. I'm a big believer in potential.
Yeah.
Now, you can't force that on people, of course. You can't force that on people. Like it has to be up to them to be able to rise to the occasion and be like, okay, I'm going to go through with this. I'm going to go forward and do this. But you can't enforce that on somebody. They have to be able to see it in themselves and then also take that action. So being able to say like, if they can do it, so can you. That I feel like that just doesn't help anything.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, like use it
even if
as
it's
a
bad.
motivational, right? Yeah, like reminding them their potential, like motivating them to like to give it a try. But
Yeah.
just so that they don't interpret that as like, or they kind of like it doesn't cross their mind that that's like the end all be all of it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, like consider the physical limitations. But I do think that at some point there is, like, let's say, like, and we've seen this story 100 times, right? We've seen this story 100 times where everyone around them told them that they can't do it, but they still managed to.
Mm, yeah.
Like, it's just for that person, it depends on, like, again, first not potential, right?
Yeah.
And I think the more important aspect is passion, right? How
Mm.
much are you willing to
Willingness.
endure?
Yeah,
Yeah, willingness.
willingness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, let's say that in terms of potential, maybe you don't have good potential because of, like, you have this physical limitation. You have maybe, like, let's say you want to be a runner, but you don't have, like, your lungs. Maybe it's like there's a problem with it. Like, you're not
Mhm.
able to have too much stamina, right? But
Yeah.
some people are able to, like, if you're willing to endure training every day, so you can build up that stamina to the
Mhm.
peak of, like, what you can physically,
Yeah.
then you still have that potential. Like, you raise your potential to, like, reach your dream, right? And that's I think that's the thing about it. It's uh like, yeah, like, motivate them. It's motivating, but also kind of bringing them back into the reality of, like, it is gonna take a lot of, like, endurance on your part. Like, so
Yeah.
how passionate are you about this thing that you're doing?
And I also want to say, because you mentioned physical limitations, but not even just that. I would even go as far to say is situational, because it could depend on your financial situation. Are you a parent? Are you a spouse? And you have to consider these other people in your life too before you
Mm-hmm.
take on whatever that venture may be. I feel like the people who tend to say this phrase, if they can do it, so can you. Like what we said, it's often done with good intention, but it might be
Mm-hmm.
misplaced sometimes to not consider, well, what is this person's, where are they
Mm-hmm.
at when we're saying this, like, and do we know the full story of what they're.
Tony, I thought of, like, something funny when you said that, like, the situational thing.
Uh-oh.
This made me think of, like, like, let's say, like, let's say, for example, like, a mom, and she's like, well, I want to travel the world, but my kids are, like, really young, like, my kids are, like, really young. And then she has that friend who just goes, well, look at our single friend. If she can do it, so
Yeah, like, well, that's very.
she kind of just takes all the savings and just kind of
Yeah.
travels around the world.
Yeah, so I feel like that phrase, I would not use those words. Maybe
Mm,
that one's more on the thumbs down for me. Just
mm.
just I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Um
Like, you pick when you say it, right? You pick
yeah,
who and to, like, when you tell them
yeah.
that.
All right, second to last one. Actions speak louder than words. Actions speak
Definitely.
louder than
Yeah. That one I agree with. That one I agree with, but I, I I guess it depends on, like, what people read more. What, like, it's on see, this one depends on the other person. It depends on what they read more. Do they because some people, they listen to words more than they look at actions. But some people, they look at your actions more than
words.
they believe in words.
That's an
And I
interesting
think
caveat.
that's it depends. Yeah, like, for me, definitely actions speak louder than words. Like, actions speak louder than words. Like, for me to see, like to see someone doing something rather than telling me they're gonna do it, like, I would believe them more, like, on that. Because for me, saying it is just one thing, you know. To say it is, like, it's one thing, and then all I'm gonna tell you on that, or all I'm gonna say on that is just tell me, okay, like, because I really care for you, I'm gonna do this for you. All I can say about that is, like, thank you, and okay, because like, you're just saying that, but if you, like, for you to do it, that's for me. Okay, like, yeah, they really meant it when they said it. Right? But maybe for some people, they don't notice the actions as much, but like when you tell them, okay, I'm gonna do this for you, they already believe you, right? They're like, yeah, I believe you're gonna, I believe you're gonna, you're gonna do that. So I guess that's where it depends, on the person. Like, what do they see more?
I feel like Renz's comment kind of sums up where I am with this, because he said he agreed with you, but he
Mhm.
said, but there are people who can't read actions. And I feel like that's me. Because I'm sometimes I feel like I'm really dense, just in general. I'm really dense and unassuming, and sometimes some actions I might interpret it one way when it's really the other way around, and then vice versa. I can't think of a specific situation. Um, like for example, somebody's trying to express to me that they like me, like a guy's like trying to flirt with me, and I just think he's being nice. And then, and then the opposite of that too, like there are times where I think, I hope he's not trying to flirt with me, but then he's really just, like those kind of
Mhm.
situations. I feel like I don't read actions well. So what helps me is verbalizing also, like that reassurance of, um not to say that that's the whole thing,
Mhm.
right? That they'll just say whatever that they want to say and then be done with it. Like I do put importance to actions, but if it's only actions, I feel like sometimes I get confused, or it's me not wanting to assume, or I'm downplaying it. Like I'm downplaying it,
Mhm.
or I'm like watering it down. I'm just like, oh, that's nothing. You know what I mean? I feel
Yeah,
like I need that communication of also words, if that makes sense.
yeah. That's when that's when words will speak louder than actions. Like when like when you have that person who's like when you have the person who's like, I don't want to assume. Like, I don't want to assume.
Yeah, it's just
Like I don't want to assume from like your actions that you're doing it because you care for me. Like,
yeah. I
they're
don't.
they're like that. Like for the for that kind of person, like you need like you really need to verbalize it. Like your actions will just support what you say, but you need to say it.
Yeah, for me, that's for me. Okay, I know for other people they might be good, like with actions and speaking out of the words, but for me, I need words, just because it works hand in hand together for me. I'm like, okay, like this is what's happening. Like, I need that kind of like reassurance. Like, okay, this is
I'm
this is
laughing at
where we're at.
Ren's comment because and I'm laughing at Ren's comment because it made me imagine it's like someone doing that, like they give you flowers, they introduce you to their parents, and you're like, wow, he's really nice to me.
I mean, like that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why I'm like that, but I'm just like that. So I appreciate words. I think words can do a lot, especially as a person who loves writing and who loves like writing messages to people. I put a lot of meaning to words, especially because
Mhm.
I have a lot of friends who they're big on words of affirmation. They didn't really get that growing up. So I know that that's important to them to give that to them. But I do agree with that they have to back each other up. Now, another thing to that too is I don't know um who mentioned it earlier. Oh, it was PJ. It depends on motivation behind actions. So what kind of sucks is that you won't always be able to see what somebody's intention is. Like
Mhm.
you can think that you know it, but you won't always know it. So maybe that's kind of why in my mind I just kind of downplay everything because I don't want to assign meaning as much as possible to whatever their intent may be. But I always just try to assume the best and like benefit of the doubt. Ren is like the
Okay.
motivation is marriage. I'm like, you
Benefit.
never know. Yeah, benefit of the
So
doubt.
that was trying to say benefit of the doubt, but it's comments on my mind went motivation. I'm like, wait, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, benefit of the doubt. So yeah, actions speak louder than the words. I would say most of the time I agree with that, but I don't want to put words also on the back burner to make them not seem important, because I think they are important too. Because I feel like sometimes when we say this phrase, they just they just write off words like, oh, they're not important. Like, yeah, like it's nice to say I love you. Like it's expressing that to someone like in actions is nice, but also like to tell them that.
Yeah.
Like, that's
It's different to say it and then like being able to kind of like where it's like, let's say it's 3 in the morning and they're like, they're like, I think I'm like, like I think I'm like having a panic attack, and they're like, okay, they have like it's 3 in the morning, but they're like, okay, let's like let's get not physically, but they're like, okay, let's sit together, let's talk about
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
like that's different, or you have an
It's-
emergency at 3 in the morning, and they're like, okay, I'm on my way.
yeah, for sure. All right, last one before we close out everything. Hard work always pays off. Agree? Disagree?
Mm,
Middle?
I'm gonna have to
Situational?
I'm gonna have to disagree with that because I do think that hard work is not enough. You know, like hard work is not uh enough in like let's say you're working hard to befriend someone who just really doesn't want to be friends. Maybe for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason, they just really just don't want to be friends. Like you can work hard at that, You can maybe you can get them to acknowledge you, but at the end of the day, they might not. They might not want to be friends with you at the end, right? And that's the thing. It's like, well, for you, what what kind of payoff would you be content with, right? Like for me, like that's no, like for me, that's the thing. Like, what kind of payoff would you be content to accept, right? Because like there's like definitely hard work is something that uh what do you call it, encourage people to do. Like yeah, it's good to encourage people to work hard. It's good to encourage people to try, but like to say that it always pays off, I think that might be setting some unrealistic expectations. you know, to say that something will always pay off. Like you're giving them that guarantee, that 100% guarantee that's always gonna pay off. Like who do they blame if it doesn't pay off for them? Right? You know?
I would say that it is situational. What Ren's put in the chat. Oh no, PJ, I think hard work ethic is good ethic or habit, but I don't think it works in every situation. And then
Mhm.
Ren said someone is far more important as a factor. So hard work leads to true benefit. So yeah, I think this one is definitely situational. I think there are times where we might say that um, this phrase doesn't work because we don't see the benefits right away. Because I feel like even in situations where you feel like you're really working your butt off, like you're really like, going at it, even if you don't gain the thing that you initially wanted from it, like let's say the situation that you said was a friend, you're trying really hard to be somebody's friend. Even if it doesn't end up with um the end game or like I can't the
The goal,
result,
yeah.
the end goal that you wanted, I feel like you still the payoff there can change depending on how you look at the situation. Like your payoff may not be the result that you necessarily wanted, but your payoff could be, well, I learned more about myself through the situation. I learned about more of what I want in a friend. Like I feel like hard work can lead to something. Hard work can lead to something. It may not always be something that you see right away. It might not always be something that comes to you immediately in that moment. It could be somewhere down the line where you can look back at the situation, and then that thing becomes like, oh, well, I'm glad that I did all of that because now it sets me up better for this situation. It may not be like immediate benefit.
Mhm.
So I won't say that. Oh, I agree with always being a. Sometimes that's not the best word to
Mhm.
use is like a full on like 100%. But I
And you're
do
giving
think,
them 100% guarantee when you're not even sure.
yeah, I don't know about like there's always being guarantees, but it depends on what it's for. Because there are definitely things that we work hard for that without a doubt there is a payoff even if we don't see it like right now, right away, in the way that we want to. But if you pay attention, I feel like gratitude plays a big part in that. like being able to be thankful for the work, even though it is work, like the opportunity to do the work, whatever the work may be. So yeah,
And
I feel
I
like I'm
think
neutral about this
explaining to
one.
the person too that there's other factors. It's not just working hard, although that is a big factor of it, but that's
Yeah.
not the only factor of like the payoff, right? Like there has to be something else depending on like what it is you're working hard towards. Right?
For sure.
But
Well, I hope all of you enjoyed those different phrases that we went through, because there's plenty more. If you enjoyed this type of style of broadcast, please let us know, because there's a lot more blanket generalization statements out there that we can totally pick apart and go through together. But it seems like the general consensus is that it is situational. I think it's harder to take phrases and just let that be your identity, like what EJ said earlier, like just having that be your whole thing, leaving some room for flexibility, or um, being able to see things in different situations, and trying to adapt and trying to adjust. So yeah, hope you guys learned something, or you just were entertained by me and EJ and our commentary on this stuff. But this has been INC Radio Chat Live. We hope to see you guys again same time next week, and we hope that you have a nice long weekend for everyone. So enjoy yourselves, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Take care, and share this with anyone that you think will benefit from the broadcast. This has been Chat Live. Bye, everyone. Take care.
This is what I ask. Let me always dwell in the temple of the Lord till I bring my last.